Hello boys and girls, so in today's video we're going to talk about if you should buy a cheap helmet or an expensive helmet.
And I'm going to tell you why I think cheaper is better.
So there are so many motorcycle helmets out there on the market. You have anything from your cheap Agrius helmet that I have, which is around about £30 I paid for it. And then you also have your Space Tech helmets now that have cameras in the back of them. But should you go for a cheaper helmet or a more expensive helmet? Well, first of all, let's look at why you should buy cheaper helmets. First of all, the price. Second of all, if you do scratch them, you can just throw them away and get another one. Third of all, they have the same safety standards. So why should you buy a more expensive helmet? The materials that they use are far better. The helmets are lighter. They have so much more technology built into them. And also there is the branding factor as well. Now, I have always bought cheap helmets. I've never ever felt the need to get a more expensive one. Especially with owning 125s, I've never felt like I need to spend a lot of money on gear. Now, this helmet you see here is a Shocks helmet, and I have sticker bombed the hell out of it. But this has been a very, very good helmet. It only cost me around about £45 at the time. You have little interchangeable visors here. You also have a little sun visor there that comes down. And it's been a great little helmet. It is pretty light. It's not the lightest helmet in the world, but that also comes with the price you pay for helmets. Now, the reason why I get cheap motorcycle helmets is because I make sure I do my research before buying helmets. And just because you put a lot of money onto a helmet, that doesn't mean it's gonna save your life. The way I see it, as long as it's full-faced, as long as it's got the safety ratings on the back to say that it's road legal and it's safe to use on the roads, and also that it feels comfortable, then it is good to go. Buying a branded bike helmet or bike gear has never really been important to me, and the reason for that is because you are pretty much paying for a logo. Now, I've got a few examples for that. If you are familiar with cars, you may have seen the Toyota Aygo on the road, the Citroen C1, and also the Peugeot 108. Now, they are all the same cars, from chassis to engine to electrics to interior. The only difference on these cars is the bumper and the headlights. That's it. Everything else is basically the same. And as you would expect, Toyota are the most expensive one there. Even though the cars are exactly the same as each other, Toyota is more expensive to buy. Now, why is that? It's simple, it's because of the logo. The Citroen C1 and also the Peugeot 108 actually use the Toyota engine. So they are exactly the same build and actually the same quality as well. But people will be willing to pay that little bit extra just because of that badge. And that applies to everything out there. That applies to food, that applies to gear, that applies to products. And what you'll find in most cases is that it's exactly the same, but just labeled differently. Now, like I said, with more expensive helmets, you will have a lighter material. It won't necessarily be better, but it will be lighter and more comfortable. That is probably the biggest difference between cheaper helmets and also more expensive helmets. So if you don't see any of those markings on the back of the helmet, and if it's not a brand you're familiar with or that's popular within the biker community, don't use it. So do not do that, and that applies for any motorcycle gear. If it's not branded, if it's got nothing on it and it's straight from China, only costs you like £20, do not buy it. That's where you draw the line. But anything above that, a £40 helmet like my Agrius helmet, buy it, because it's got your safety ratings, you know it's been tested. If it's comfortable on you and you feel comfortable in it, then it's a win-win. The only reason that I would buy a more expensive helmet is because it would be lighter and also more comfortable. And as for those more advanced helmets that you see out there now with the cameras on the back of the helmet, personally, I wouldn't go about buying them just yet. One of the main things that concerns me about those helmets is what does that camera being in the back of the helmet do to the structure of the helmet? And does it affect the strength? I can understand where they're going with it in terms of road safety and making sure that there's no cars behind you before you overtake, but is it worth having that in there if it affects the structure of the helmet? Personally, I don't think so. Now, I'm not saying don't go for an expensive helmet, because it is completely down to you. It is your life at the end of the day, and if it gives you peace of mind when you're out on the road, buy it. If you're not bothered about branding and everything else, then go for a cheaper helmet. I've come off a few times on my bike. I've even tried demolishing an old cheap helmet, and it took a lot of throwing about just to get it to break up. Now the reason I bring this video up is because I know there's a lot of people out there that start to get out into biking and they're concerned of what gear and what stuff to get, and they're worried if they get cheap gear that it won't be good enough. And I was exactly the same when I first started riding. But as long as you do your research and you make sure it has all the safety ratings on it and that there's not been any horror stories with the product, then you'll be fine. There shouldn't be an issue with it just because it's cheap. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that is out there is only expensive because of the brand, because of the logo. And these companies put a lot of money into advertising, and that's why the price of their products are so expensive. But of course, with the more expensive helmets, there's always that little bit more research that goes into these helmets, and they've also had more rigorous safety checks. But that doesn't mean a cheap helmet will just break up on you when you come off your bike. Anyway, boys and girls, I hope that's helped you out in some way with deciding if to get a cheap helmet or to get a more expensive helmet. I will put a little link down below in my description box for you if you want to see what helmet I use. Anyway, boys and girls, if you have liked this video, please give this video a big thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't yet tapped that bell end yet, please smash that bell end because it'll notify you of any more videos coming up in the future. And I'll see you again very soon. Bye.